I'm going to go through all of the dip variations from a bench dip to a weighted dip and show you how to execute each of these movements and what we need to be thinking of. So the first move that we've got is the bench dip. The thing that I like about the bench dip is that it's going to allow us to start in an extended position of the shoulder and work through that range of extension. So this is extension here. And so just to quickly go through this, I'm going to start with actually my hands pointing back like so, because that's going to allow me to move more into extension. I'm going to bring my hips just forward slightly, and my feet, I want these to be in a position whereby I can just drop the hips straight down. So I'm just going to move forwards a bit more. Now, one thing that I want you to note here, I'm already in an extended position and I'm starting in an extended position of the shoulder. But when we're doing actual dips, we want to start in a pronated position, which is more here. So it's not going to transfer as well as future aggressions. But again, this is just going to be useful almost as a flexibility exercise and to get used to that pattern of moving into extension. So fingers are pointing back, elbows are locked, and I'm just going to drop the hips down, bend the elbows back until I feel a stretch, and then just focus on driving the crown of the head into the ceiling, lock out, and then come back down like so. So that's going to be an easy variation. It's going to be a very supported variation, and it's going to allow you to build up some flexibility in that pattern of moving into extension, which is going to be very useful for future progressions. So we got a 2-in-1 exercise here. We've worked through extension with the bench dip. Now we need to focus on depression and protraction of the scapulars, this is the protraction, and then from behind, depression, okay? So I've set this up super low so that we can support this position on tiptoes. This is just under hip height. So I'm going to push my hands onto the dip bars like so, elbows forwards, and then I'm just going to push up onto my tiptoes. Then I am in a supported, depressed and protracted position. So that's going to be something that's useful for you to drill. Then I'm going to step my legs back so that my knees can go straight down. So from here, I'm now thinking about shoulders going forwards, elbows pointing back, getting some depth, and then pushing up. And my feet are supporting the movement here, which means that I can get into that position of extension in my shoulders, retraction, a lot safer before I go up. Now the obvious next progression from here, whilst we're here, is to just lift one leg up and just take some support away before we go into that position and up. And so these are a couple of regression/progressions that you can go through in whichever rep range you need to go through in order to get yourself to the right intensity, RIL 1 or 2. So that's 1 to 2 reps left from failure before you feel that you're ready to move on to your next progression. Now the next progression, I've done a video in depth, and that's going to be the tricep dip. So I'm going to link that one below, and I've got an overview of that playing somewhere on this screen. And then after that, we're going to go into weighted dips. Now when it comes to weighted dips, setup becomes even more important than any other setup that you do. You just can't afford to make any mistakes with this, as we're now utilizing load, so we need to ensure that we are in the perfect position and creating as much tension as possible prior to moving, so that we're moving safely and so that we are super stable. So first things first, we need to actually set up with the dip belt. Make sure that you've got a good dip belt. Some of them are rubbish, which means if you start to attach too much weight, this part here can essentially break and snap, and I've done that before. So get a good quality dip belt, number one. So I'm just going to wrap this around. This loops into here like so. Kneel down, thread this through. Really important that this is secure, because I've had accidents in the past where the lack of security has injured me in places that you don't want to be injured. So we're going to loop this into this one here and this loop here, like so, okay? So that is super secure now. Then, whoops, I'm going to stand up When I stand up, I do a check. I just bounce because it's the slipping that can cause accidents. So make sure that there's no slippage. Perfect. Then we come over and we start to focus on the setup. So what I'm going to do, hands on the dip bars like so. Then I get into the bottom range. That's where I always start from because I need to make sure that that's where I'm stable and strongest. There's no point moving into that position from the top and then realizing, well, you won't realize, you'll just get injured. So we don't want that. So get into this position. I'm supported. I wedge, because you can see there was a bit of slippage, wedge the plate in between my legs like so. Into position, forearms are vertical, elbows together, leg off, extend up like so before I go back down. Try and get as much range of motion as possible. And then we're up again. And then typically I finish by going down, feet to the floor, step back. Now you'll notice, in order for me to do that, this needs to be at chest height. If that was too high, I don't want to be jumping into position at all because that's not stable. And obviously don't want this to be too low because we're going to be starting in just a position that's not going to allow us to get full range of motion in our dips. So make sure that you get this to the right height. And so there you have it, guys, from beginner to more advanced dips. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if there's anything I've missed. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.